Hello guys, so let's try to learn about APIs. And in this video, we will be covering what are APIs and REST APIs, how they work, how to build them, HTTP methods, and HTTP status, all of this about them. Alright, that before APIs, what used to happen was very simple. If we needed any kind of web application, mobile application, or desktop application, we had to make its own backend. And what backend do? Well, it s- process or request and it talks to the database, right? But as you can see, if I have three different applications, and mostly we need it for the business, so I have to maintain like three databases, and with like three maintaining three database, we need to have like three different teams, right? Because it's hard to find a one size fit all team, right? That could be messy, and obviously the most and important thing is it was costly because hiring three different teams, it is going to cost you. Okay, so that was the most biggest problem in earlier before the API, but API changed that, because when API came, it says that okay, you only have one backend and I can serve multiple platforms. Basically, that's the idea of AP. So we will learn about that, and we will cover some common mistakes and interview questions also, if I guess left some time. And although also we will be building an simple projects. All right. So this video could be in two parts or in one parts. We will see about that. But so yeah. So these are the things that we will be covering, and you will have learned one or two things, and definitely you are going to learn one or two things about APIs and REST API. All right. So with that being said, let's start to learn about APIs. So when you heard this term APIs, what do you think about that? For example, the word meaning of API is application programming interface. But what does it mean? Like you don't just first time you hearing this word, you don't think about anything. Like you're like, what the hell is this, right? But it's such a fancy word. But if I explain to you in a layman's term, what it is API is a way for different software system or applications to talk to each other. Now you might be asking, what do you mean by talk to each other? Like why would different system want to talk to each other, right? Well, this is exactly thing that I'm going to teach you, because we learn about this REST API. Okay, request response and data is coming and that's it. But we don't generally understand what it is going on behind the scenes, right? So this is what we will learn in this. So basically, API is an idea where we say that okay, instead of sending the entire like a web page or the we send the data. Now what for example, how it will help you, what does it mean by send the data? Okay, so think about it. You have building a front end and back end are separate, right? So if from the back end data only comes to you, like for example, let's just say talk about YouTube video fetchings. So what do you think happen? Well, what happens is that from the backend, only data comes. So the front end is free to do whatever it wants to do with the data. Or same way we talk about Instagram. Well, what happens is that Instagram only fetches the data from the backend, its own servers or backend, right? So what now Instagram UI is separate from that. So now we can change the UI without worrying about what the data will look like, because now we know exactly what the backend will send us. It won't send us the entire web page or anything like that. It will just send the information, the data that we need, and we only care about the data. So this is what, when we say different software system or application wants to talk to each other, they can talk through APIs. This is what we are saying, that whatever the info, basically what it is saying is that whatever the information that I need from you, just send me that information. I don't need extra like your entire UI. Don't send me that. Just send me the data only. That's it. I only care about that. And you will be surprised to know that there are types of API also. Yes, you heard that right. Because we, in general terms, when we talk about API, we only think about the web APIs. But this is not the case. We have so many types of API. The most famous and generally that we associate API is to REST API. What are REST APIs? We will talk about that in the uh, in coming in this video also. But It's a REST API, graphical type of API. These are called web APIs for the web related tasks. Now there comes to OS level API, operating system level. Do you know you what do you think Android is? Yes, Android is also an API because this is what it does. It lets you talk to the other system. By using that, you can build the applications. So this is also API and library APIs. The way you use jQuery. You remember in Node.js we talked about this HTTP modules, event modules. What are they? They are also a API type. They are letting you talk to the system through them, right? Node.js doesn't support these things. It's because of these modules we are able to talk to the OS level and we are able to build these softwares. So they are also considered API. Remember what I said? API is a way for different software systems to talk to each other, and this is what they are doing. So basically, API is this application programming interface. It's like this idea that okay, it's provide the abstraction for you. Basically, think of this is the like perfect way. API provides you the abstraction so that behind the scene, what it does, it will talk to the other system, and from this side, they will give you some like endpoints. Okay, this is what you, if you do this, this will happen behind the scene. How it does, it's the API's problem. Now, obviously, the writer of APIs are smart, but this is what the idea is. Remember, in Node.js is a perfect example for this API thing, right? We don't have anything that Node.js supports internally, but because of these HTTP modules, file systems, and events, and all of these things, we are able to talk to the system, OS level operating system, which is written in a C++, right? So this is a perfect example of API. And because of that, we are able to like build Node.js, and now this MERN stack is so famous, all because of this API. This idea of API. Okay, so that is API, and let's move to this our this particular video where we will discuss about specifically what is REST API. So let's talk about what is REST API. Well, when we talk about REST, it's not a tool or library that while building API you have to kind of like import it or configure it. No, it's just a design style that introduced to you that if you follow these rules, this is REST API. That's it. It's nothing we have to internally build something or like kind of import, and we have to do certain kind of things. No, it's just a style that if I will obviously we will talk about the rules in a while, but that is it. And the what REST stands for is representational state transfer. Now I know it doesn't like sounds very sexy, but the entire idea is we will talk about the rules. But the entire idea of it's like a design style that people who are very smart, they like kind of gave this idea that if it follows this your API, this follow these rules, it is REST API. All right. So REST API, and let's talk about the REST API uses HTTP to talk. Remember HTTP request response, where HTTP methods like get, push, post, delete, we it uses them. And so let's talk about the rules of our REST API. That what considered uh, REST API. Well, first of all, it is stateless. Now you might be wondering what is stateless. Well, as its name suggests, it doesn't store anything on the backend. What do I mean by that? When you send the request to the backend, what happens is it takes everything from the front end, like any authentication related things or whatever the information that server needs, it will take that from the front end and it will give to the backend. Every new request will do the exact same thing, meaning server or backend doesn't know that this is the first request or what was the previous record. It doesn't store anything. That is stateless. So this is what we call stateless. If it follows that, good, it is considered REST API. Second, it uses HTTP methods to process. So, for example, if I'm making a request of getting something from the server, so I should use on the API get method. Like, okay, this is get request, so that I can describe clearly that okay, this is a get request, and whatever the logic is, it's so supposed to want send something on the front end. Post request meaning I want to put something on the database or on the server. Put means I want to update something, and delete means I want to delete something on the server. So it describes these methods. So if your API follows these rules, it is also considered REST API. Third thing, proper status codes. That is very important because let's just say you are trying to get something on the server and it doesn't like the server doesn't found that on database or whatever the you were trying to get, it didn't found them there. So it should return the appropriate status. Now, if you're trying to put something on that server or backend, it should return the status that what was the status of this request. Was it handled properly or was there some kind of error? So, for example, if you're trying to post something on the server, if it was successful, then you should return 201, meaning the resource was created successfully. Or if it is like you don't want to return 201, you just say, okay, the request successes, meaning whatever you're trying to get, then you should return 200, meaning everything is fine. And if something, let's just say 404, like whatever that you're trying to access, it doesn't exist there, then you should return 400 error. And if something is wrong on the server, let's just say you were trying to access something and on the server it didn't found, although it didn't found, but it caused some problem on the server. So instead of just returning some empty responses, you should return 500 error, meaning so that client can handle it better, that know that okay, it's nothing wrong with the like front end, it is some kind of error on the back end, so that backend developer can handle it. Or it's clear separation of concerns that okay, which team should handle, or if the team is them, if they will know where the error is occurring, right? So status code. So if you REST API follow status code, then great. You use proper status code. It is also a part of REST API's design style. And fourth thing is you use JSON format generally. You know the JSON format. If you're sending the data, it returns in the format of JSON, right? So if your APIs follow this kind of rules, then it's considered as a REST API. That's the thing about REST API. Nothing serious. It's just if you are have experience of 1 or 2 years, I mean, building REST APIs, you might be doing these thing already by the way. So there's nothing to be learning. Like you have to make a notes and all of this thing. It's just like doing everything, but it's good to remind, right? So, and the reason we do it, as you can see, if we follow these rules, it helps us to build clean and simple and scalable APIs, because now we can predict like proper format and all of these things. We are following the rules, and if we follow the rules, you know that whatever we are building, it will be nice, right? So that was it about REST APIs. Now let's go to this next part of this video. Let's talk about quickly about HTTP methods first. What are HTTP methods? Well, you know that get, post, push, delete. That's what I'm talking about. So, why do we use them? Well, again, as I said, it helps us to build clean and maintainable REST APIs, so that we can know that okay, you know what each like a thing is doing on the backend, right? So for that, we need to know certain things about get, post, put, delete. I know you already know it, so but let me just quickly go over them so that you can just move to the next part. First is get. Obviously, what it does, well, as you can imagine, it fetch something from the database, server or database, whatever, right? So this request means that we are trying to get something from the server. So that this request, it defines that. And second is post. Obviously, it wants to create something on the server. It could be putting something on the database or anything that is like through the third party or whatever. But the idea is it wants to create some data to the server or post data to the server. Put means it wants to update the data on server. So whenever we want to update, so for example, whenever we say update the profile, update this and that, so what we are doing is we are using the put request, meaning put method, so that server knows okay, this is the put request, so handle this way. And delete means we want to delete something on the server, simple like that. So whenever we are making a delete request, We are saying I want to delete something on the server, so server will know which uh, what to actions to perform. Now, very important reminder. I know I shouldn't be saying this thing to you, but I don't want any confusion. If you are beginner, when you use these methods don't do actions themselves. So it's not like whenever you use this get post put delete methods into their request, and they will just do the rest of the part for you. No, we have to write the logic for what should happen. They won't do it by themselves. So this is very important because I don't want any confusion key. Okay, so if I use get post put delete, it will do something on the server. No, it won't. It's literally you can do any of these things by using get. Like you can post some data using the get request also. They won't deny it, but this is not perfect way to do it. That's why we do it. As I said, rest is a style design. It's not a tools or like force thing. It's just a style, right? So this is why we are doing it. Otherwise, it's not like you can't do this thing with just a guest. I can delete, put, and post anything with just a guest request, or I can post and I can get the data also. So it is just for the sake of uh, what do you call that? Following rules, so that it's maintainable and it's like a readable. So that we can predict okay whether it is written for what purpose it is written, so that we can when we were debugging it we know what to do, right? So that's why we are doing this. But don't get confused that these methods are doing anything for you on the server. They won't do anything themselves. We are the one as a developer, we write the logic for what should happen. All right, so that's it about http methods. Let's move to the next topic. And while we were discussing about the rules, an important thing, and I have seen this also a common mistake amongst developer while building a page, the REST API, while building fast REST API, they kind of don't handle these things properly, which is status codes. So you need to be very very careful about this thing. I mean, I think people don't return proper status code, and I've seen front end developers get angry to the back end developers. They're like, you know what, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, curse the back end developers. So if you don't want to happen to you and you want to be good back end developer or full stack developer, you need to learn about status codes. I know you already know them, but you need to use them properly. All right. I know it will take 1 or 2 minutes for you to just figure it out. Oh, you can just search on that. Okay, this is what I'm doing. What kind of status code will be very good for me? If this is a person that I'm performing, what are the status code that I should be uh, knowing? Right. So I can make a video on that also, like what kind of status code should I use when performing certain operations. All right. But for simplicity, let me just walk you over through some of the basic and generally used status code. Well, first thing is 200, which means okay, like everything's good, done. So it could be used everywhere, to be honest. Like for example, if you were trying to delete something and it got deleted and nothing bad happened on the backend and everything was nice, then you can return 200 also, like meaning saying the status code is 200 and the message is okay, done. Like it is created, whatever the message is, whatever the message you want to show to the front end, you can just say that. All right, 201 meaning whatever that you were trying to create on the server, it created. The resources was created, or it stored it could be storing into the database or anything. You can just say 201 meaning its resources is created. 40400 meaning bad request. Whatever you're sending, something is wrong with your request on the front end. 401 unauthorized meaning properly you didn't send any kind of authorization thing. 401 404 meaning not found. The resources or that you were trying to access are not there. So it could be like, for example, you are hitting an endpoint that doesn't exist. Right? Like, for example, let's just say Instagram, if you search something slash something, 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 Instagram.com slash something, it will say like 404 doesn't found, your page doesn't found. So this is what it means 404 not found. So 500 meaning internal server error. So for example, if you're trying to get or delete or anything, but it has to do with server, right? If server broke down or database connection was not there or anything. Basically, has to do with the server. So you return 500. So the client can say, remember when you don't have any access to, sorry, in network connection and you try to access a website, you get 500 like right. This is what it means that okay, front end request was good, nothing wrong with front end. It's the back end the problem. So the developer can send you handle it properly. All right. Always return meaningful status code and messages in response. This is very important. So that is this is that. And let's try to jump into the next thing, which is stateless versus stateful APIs. Well, as I explained it to you earlier, REST APIs are stateless. Server doesn't remember any old requests, and so this is what stateless means. And stateful means server kind of store some kind of information related to request to the server, like it could be recording sessions, so that it will cache that, anything like that. So anything, if server is storing related to request to the own server, it is stateful, and if it doesn't, it is stateless. And the reason we are using stateless is because good for scalability. What do I mean by that? Well, we are not dependent. Like now, every request takes the necessary things with it on the server. So server is not uh, like bound to the remember anything. It's just like free from anything. Like whatever if the request is coming, it is responsibility of the front end developer to send everything that a server needs in order to process that request. Because this is why we make it stateless, that okay, I don't remember anything. If you are coming in every if the request is coming 10 times from the same client, I need that same information 10 times so that I can process it properly. By using middleware, I can authorize, like I can check it with authorization, it is authorized or not, or something like that. All right. So this is about stateless, stateful, nothing serious about it. And yeah, this is like entirely like what we've covered till now. This is what about REST APIs. Nothing fancy. It's just simple rules. Like for example, state method, status code, stateless, and some rules like what should be using proper JSON, status code methods, all of these things. If you are using them properly, this is about REST API. That's it. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for this watching this video. I hope you learned one or two things about REST APIs, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, and yeah,